Hey, what's going on, you guys? My name is the Raptor, and welcome back to Who'd Win and Why. And this time we've got Dante from Devil May Cry going up against Raiden from Metal Gear. Now, both of these characters are ridiculously skilled and powerful swordsmen, and both of them are half human and half, well, something else. But in a one-on-one battle to the death, who would be victorious? Well, that's what I'm here to give my opinion on. So, who'd win and why? Let's find out! Okay, so first I'm going to talk about Dante. Because of Dante's demonic heritage, he possesses ridiculous strength, speed, and durability. He's strong enough to shatter stone with virtually no difficulty, and to stop a punch from an enormous demon known as the Savior. Fast enough to run down a building so fast that he catches fire, and to destroy over 100,000 raindrops with his sword in less than a second alongside his brother Virgil. And he's tough enough to survive meteor showers, lightning strikes, and even hellfire. In fact, a big reason why he's able to survive all that he can is because of his healing factor, which makes him extremely hard to kill. Now, don't get the wrong idea, this doesn't make him immortal by any means, but it does mean that he can shake off being impaled and stabbed and many other fatal wounds being inflicted on him, and it means that he can fight for hours on end with virtually no sign of fatigue. Along with Dante's insane physical capabilities, he also carries around a huge arsenal of weaponry. His favorite weapons include his twin handguns, which he's named Ebony and Ivory, which are powerful enough to destroy many demons in a single shot, and his extremely powerful sword, which he's named Rebellion, which is also a manifestation of his own power. However, Dante also carries around a lot of other weapons that he's acquired after defeating certain enemy demons. For example, he carries around Lucifer, which is a backpack that can produce basically unlimited spike projectiles. He also carries around Navon, a literally electric guitar, his Gilgamesh gauntlets, which increase his striking power significantly, Pandora, a briefcase which can transform into literally 666 different weapons, and more. My god, that's a lot of weapons. But if all that still isn't enough for you, Dante is also a very skilled fighter. Not only has he mastered various martial arts, but he's also a master sharpshooter, a master swordsman, and a weapons expert, meaning that he's very proficient in basically every weapon that he carries around with him. On top of all of that, however, probably the most advantageous things about Dante are the extra abilities that he's picked up after defeating enemy demons, which he's called styles. Dante's styles allow him to do some pretty crazy things, including teleporting, duplicating himself, and even obtaining a form that makes him nearly impossible to harm. However, arguably his most helpful style is his Quicksilver style, which allows him to slow down time to a near halt. Plus, Dante also has some other abilities of his own, such as channeling demonic energy through objects, such as his weapons. Last, but certainly not least, Dante also possesses his Devil Trigger form, which is essentially his ultimate demon form. While in this state, Dante's strength, speed, and healing speed increase by an insane degree, and he also gains the ability of flight. However, with or without this form, Dante has taken down some ridiculously powerful demons over the years, many way out of his weight class, some while he's unarmed, and almost all without much effort at all. With all this in mind, however, it is worth noting that Dante doesn't usually think before he acts, which can lead him into trouble. And while he does seem to possess some analytical thinking skills, he's often very overconfident and cocky during battle, which can lead him to underestimate his opponent. Plus, as I mentioned before, his healing factor does not make him immortal by any standards, and sometimes he can rely on it a little too much. Then again, Dante has never really had to rely too much on his smarts before, and he has every reason to be cocky. Dante may only be a half demon, but he's full badass and ready to slay any demon that gets in his way. Alright, so now it's time to talk about Raiden. After enduring an experimental cyborg treatment, Raiden gained physical capabilities that were off the charts, and he's gone through 5 cyborg bodies over the years, each of which being more powerful than the last. Raiden is fast enough to outrun bullet trains going at 200 miles per hour, and fast enough to fight faster than the eye can track. He's tough enough to survive a fall, creating a crater in the earth, and he's strong enough to lift and throw over 1,000 tons. So needless to say, this cyborg body really pushed it so that he has physical capabilities far beyond that of a regular person, especially when it comes to his strength. Now, Raiden may possess some other abilities such as electricity generation, but his weapon of choice is undoubtedly his high-frequency blade, also known as the Murasama. The way that this blade works is that it essentially creates a fast-moving current throughout the blade, meaning that it can weaken the bonds of the molecules of whatever it comes into contact with. And this means that it can cut through basically anything, whether it be supposedly indestructible metals, nanomachines, or even machines built to survive nuclear wars. And considering all the strength he has behind that blade, that doesn't surprise me at all. On top of all of this, Raiden is also an amazing fighter, and he was an amazing fighter before he underwent any sort of cyborg treatment. He led a whole army and achieved a high kill count while not even being past 10 years old. And he's also a very skilled swordsman and is very deadly with or without his blade in hand. Now, Raiden may already sound like a nigh unstoppable badass, but it doesn't even end there. Raiden can kick it up a notch by activating one of his modes. Arguably, the mode that he uses most often is Zendatsu, which is found in his blade mode. Essentially what this does is it slows down Raiden's perception of time by up to 90%, meaning that he can swing quicker or more accurately. Either way, he's doing more damage and becomes much more deadly. Also, Raiden can deactivate his pain inhibitors, which allows him to access his famous Ripper mode, which is kind of like a final form in a way. And while he uses this, Raiden's strength and speed increases significantly, but he also kind of turns insane. And while this definitely makes him more dangerous, he also definitely won't be doing any analytical thinking while he's using this. Raiden has had a very long and painful history with war, and he's defeated many different enemies over the course of his life, including Solidus Snake, enemy cyborgs, and also gigantic robots. However, even with all of these awesome abilities and feats, Raiden is definitely not invincible. First of all, when it comes to his modes, Raiden really can't sustain his modes for any great length of time as they'll use up too much fuel, and he also needs to absorb electrolytes from enemy cyborgs in order to replenish his fuel, as if he uses up too much, he'll essentially lose power. And the same can also be said about his blood, as it needs to be changed from time to time. Even with all that holding him back, however, Raiden is still a badass through and through, and he's still kicking around after all the hell he's been through. He's got the strength, the speed, the sword, and the modes to obliterate anyone that tries to stand against him. Alright, so now that I've gone over both of these characters, it's finally time for me to decide who I think would win this battle. And overall, I do think this would be a really interesting fight to see, especially since they do seem to be even in a number of different categories. They both seem to be roughly the same in terms of intelligence and fighting ability. They're both masters of all the weapons that they carry around with them, and they also have some similar special abilities, which I'll get into later. With that all being said though, ultimately, I do definitely think that Dante would be the winner of this fight. And if you think that Raiden would be the winner of this fight, that's awesome, you know, that's perfectly fine. Tell me your reasoning down in the comments below, but here's why I definitely think that Dante would win this fight more often than not. First of all, when looking at the advantages that each character has over the other, it's pretty clear that the only sizable advantage Raiden has over Dante is physical pure brute strength. Yes, both of these characters have ways to increase their strength even further, but when looking at them at base, Raiden is strong enough to lift and throw a Metal Gear Ray weighing well over 1,000 tons, and this was in a previous cyborg body, meaning that his top strength is definitely well above that. And this does mean that he is stronger than Dante, as it blows any of Dante's physical pure brute strength feats out of the water. However, when looking at all the other categories, Dante seems to have a pretty prominent edge in nearly all of them. Let's talk about speed. Both Raiden and Dante do seem to have ways to actually make themselves appear faster, as Raiden has Zendatsu, which slows down his perception of time, and Dante has Quicksilver, which, well, slows down time. But when looking at their base speeds, Dante clearly has the advantage. Raiden is still very fast, and he's able to outrun bullet trains going at 200 miles per hour, and he's able to fight faster than the eye can track, which likely means that he's about supersonic, maybe hypersonic. But even if we put him at about Mach 10, that still wouldn't be fast enough to catch up to Dante. Not only does Dante's feat, where he destroys over 100,000 raindrops in less than a second alongside Virgil, mean that he can go at about Mach 20 speeds, but also him running down the side of a building catching fire is similar to atmospheric re-entry at 17,000 miles per hour. That's about Mach 22. Now sure, for that last feat, you could say that Dante didn't really go quite that fast, or that gravity did most of the work, but the point still stands. Raiden's able to run over 200 miles per hour and fight at Mach 10 if we're being generous, whereas Dante is able to both run and fight at about Mach 20 speeds. That should paint a very clear picture of who's faster between the two. Not only that, but Dante can also instantaneously teleport, which would make him even harder to catch. When it comes to durability, however, it gets a little closer. In fact, I might even say that Raiden has the advantage here, simply because he has an extremely tough cyborg exterior. However, based on what these characters have been able to do and their weapons, to me it's pretty clear that each of these characters would be able to outdo each other's durability if given the chance. So really, what matters matters more in this fight is how long each character can last in the fight. And when it comes to stamina, it's arguably the best thing that Dante has going for him, whereas with Raiden, it's arguably his worst. Dante's ridiculous healing factor right off the bat means that he has far more endurance than Raiden. And as I've said many times before, this healing factor does not make him invincible or immortal, but it does mean that he can sustain himself longer, and it means that he can recover much quicker and much easier from fatal attacks. When looking at Raiden, on the other hand, not only can Raiden not sustain his extra modes for very long at all, but he also relies on a fuel source in order to move around and act at all. He essentially has a time limit. And what this means is that Dante is going to heal quicker, and he's going to be able to push himself longer than Raiden, and he will eventually outlast him. This isn't to say that Raiden can't survive anything. He's still very tough, and it's not to say that his time limit is short by any standards, but it does mean that Dante outlasting Raiden is an eventuality. It just will eventually happen. And I know what a lot of you guys are thinking. What about Raiden's high-frequency blade? And yes, while Raiden's high-frequency blade is very powerful and allows it to basically cut through anything by weakening a target's molecular bonds, it's not anything like the carbonadium sword from the Marvel universe, which weakens a healing factor. Meaning from Dante's point of view, it's just another sword that can cut him that he's just going to heal from. It's not going to be anything more than that. And even if you want to argue that it weakening a target's molecular bonds means that it is going to be harder for him to heal, again, because of Dante's speed advantage, good luck to Raiden for actually catching him. Even with all this being said, there are still some more advantages that Dante has over Raiden, including versatility. Yes, Raiden does have quite a bit going for him, as he has his Murasama, he has his electricity generation, and he has his modes. However, this still pales in comparison to what Dante can do. Dante not only has some extra abilities that makes him even more deadly, such as his demonic energy channeling and his duplication, but he also carries around well over 600 different weapons in total. That's insane. That makes him way more unpredictable than Raiden could ever hope to be, and it means that he can even the odds in terms of strength, or help to even the odds, and even extend the other advantages that Dante has over Raiden. I would also say that Dante has the experience advantage, at least by a little bit. Sure, both of these characters have done very impressive things, and they've taken on impressive foes, but Dante takes on ridiculously powerful demons on the daily over and over and over again, and he usually does this with relative ease, and it's always done with a free spirit. Really, the way I see it, Dante has seen, done, and survived it all, whereas I'm not sure if Raiden would be prepared to take on a half-demon like Dante. Last but not least, Dante also possesses a superior super form, this being Devil Trigger versus Ripper mode. And yes, both of them do seem to be pretty similar on the surface, and you could say that they are fairly similar in general, but they also have some distinct differences. Not only does Dante's Devil Trigger seem to actually improve more categories than Raiden's Ripper mode, but it also just lasts longer, as none of Raiden's modes can last for that long at all because they burn through too much fuel. So really, Dante's Devil Trigger is better and it lasts longer. What more could you ask for? Overall, both of these characters are extremely skilled and they have ridiculous physical capabilities and weapons, but when it comes down to it, Dante seems to have more advantages and more prominent advantages. He has more options to choose from in order to take Raiden down, and his quickness and healing factor means that it really wouldn't be too hard for him to outlast Raiden. And while Raiden does seem to have a strength advantage, a pretty significant one at that, I feel that Dante's far superior speed, stamina, versatility, experience, and super form would all culminate into Raiden's undoing. So, in my opinion, the winner is Dante. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. This was a fight that I've been waiting to do ever since this season started, and I'm so glad that it's finally out here. I really do love both of these characters, but tell me who you think would win. If you think that Raiden would beat Dante in a fight, tell me why in the comments below. And if you think I missed anything for either character, again, let me know in the comments below, because I'd really like to hear what you guys have to say. And if you enjoyed this video, please give this video a huge like. I always appreciate the likes. Comment down below what you thought of it, what you thought of the video, what you thought of the analysis, what you thought of the winner, anything like that. And you can also suggest other episodes that I could do in the future for Who'd Win and Why. And if you guys could subscribe to my channel, that'd be so great. That would really help my channel out. I try to make these videos as much as I possibly can, and I'm so happy that I'm able to do it at a quicker rate now that it's summer. So, let's just enjoy that while we can. But, no matter what you do, your view is plenty of contribution. So thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And next time in Who'd Win and Why, we've got the Human Torch going up against Iceman. See you all then.